Depression isn't always a loud, crashing wave. More often, it's a silent, rising tide. For a man named Arthur, it didn't start with a tragedy. It started with the quiet disappearance of color. The things that once brought him joy, the smell of morning coffee, the sound of his grandkids' laughter, the pride in his garden slowly turned to grey. He wasn't sad in the way people think. He was hollow. He was a man living in a world where the volume had been turned down to zero, and the weight of simply existing felt like carrying a mountain on his shoulders. This is the story of the battle fought in the quietest corners of the mind. To his neighbors, Arthur was the same reliable man he'd always been. He waved, he smiled, he made small talk, but inside, Arthur was a ghost. He describes it as being trapped behind a thick sheet of glass. He could see the world, but he couldn't feel it. The psychological exhaustion of pretending to be okay was more draining than any physical labor. He began to withdraw, staying in the shadows of his living room, watching the days blur into weeks. This silent thief had stolen his spark, and he didn't know how to ask for it back. The breakthrough didn't come from a grand gesture. It came from a single, forgotten memory. While cleaning a dusty drawer, Arthur found an old, unfinished woodworking project, a simple birdhouse he'd started for his grandson. As his fingers touched the rough grain of the wood, something moved in the grey fog. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of purpose. He didn't finish it that day. In fact, he only sanded one side. But that one small act of creation was a crack in the glass. He realized that while the fog was thick, it wasn't permanent. He began to reach out, first to a therapist, then to his family, admitting for the first time, "I am not okay." Recovery wasn't a straight line. There were days when the fog rolled back in, threatening to swallow him again. But Arthur had learned a new language, the language of patience. He learned that depression is a liar. It tells you that you are alone, and that the darkness is forever. By focusing on small, daily victories, the colors slowly began to return. The coffee tasted like coffee again. The laughter felt like warmth. He wasn't just surviving. He was reconnecting with the man he thought he'd lost. Arthur's story is a reminder that the strongest thing a person can do is admit they are struggling. The weight doesn't disappear overnight, but it becomes easier to carry when you aren't carrying it alone. The light is always there, even when the fog is at its thickest. This story is for anyone who has ever felt the world turn grey. If you have ever walked through the grey fog, what was the one small thing that helped you find your way back to the light? And for those who are still in the shadows, what is one message of hope you would want to hear today? Please share your heart in the comments. Your words might be the lighthouse someone else is looking for tonight. Thanks for watching, and remember to be kind to yourselves.